Well, welcome to day 2 of Adilas training, and we're getting started again. Alrighty. So here in this room we have Brandon Moore. I'm going to be teaching and instructing / coordinating, and we have Tanya Bagley. Tanya, you want to say hi?
Hi. How was everyone today?
Awesome. Anything you did fun last night?
Ate dinner at Carl's Jr. How's that?
Is that because you were in a hurry, or is that because you were?
No one cooked dinner.
That's because we had you here at our house doing stuff, huh? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Shannon, how about you? We have Shannon Moore. She's going to be helping with any sort of chat and technical stuff, and she'll be doing some training today as well.
Yes. Hello to James. We have him online with us right now. Probably others to join later. So it was a great night.
Awesome. We're expecting a couple more here in Logan area, and as they come in, we'll let them do and play and whatnot, and so we'll kind of see what's going to go on. Okay, what I wanted to do is kind of just do a light little review of where we were at yesterday and kind of get some of the juices flowing again, and then kind of go back into a playground. I'm going to log into Adilas Demo. And 1234 is the password. We're playing in some demo sites. So the first place that we went yesterday was in Extreme Transportation. It's just kind of a vehicle stuff, and it has Porsches and Audis and all kinds of fun little inventory items, and who knows, all kinds of different little things. Actually, let's go ahead and go to Units in Inventory. Just to kind of refresh a little bit, say for instance we were looking at some of the autos that were in here. We added a number of different little autos, including photos, and just kind of having some fun. And so basically here's kind of some different little pieces of the puzzle. Here's a little Camaro. Real quick, where were we at yesterday, and what was going on just as part of a review? We jumped in here, and what did we do? Shannon, what did we do? Just kind of in the car site, if you will.
Well, we went through stock and serialized units, so we went through adding those kind of units. We ended up selling those units. We searched them. We went through some of the forms there and just kind of saw how many different subs and things could connect to serialized and stock units. Awesome. We were there for quite a while.
We spent all morning in this site just kind of playing with some fun little things. We paid for vehicles. We saw how it automatically transferred up to income statement and profit and loss, how it automatically went to balance sheets. We played with a little bit of banking just to kind of see how that interacted with some of these different little pieces. So that was good stuff. Okay, so after that, we switched gears and we went into a restaurant type thing, and we did some kind of coordinating, if you will, like basically, Tanya, she had actually worked at a wedding coordination place doing some catering / event things, and so we kind of simulated something in this restaurant type thing. Tanya, can I have you kind of do a little review of like what we did yesterday in the restaurant area?
Yes, we went through the thinking about how we would be an event consultant for someone.
Okay.
And so we had to open a PO, we had to add items that we could then include with our package, things like a venue, or things like tablecloths or tables that we either did or did not charge for.
Sure.
And we created a recipe so we could go through that process very quickly and sell the wedding package quickly. And then we went through adding a customer, creating invoice.
Awesome. We dibbled a little bit in elements of time as well, as far as like actually scheduling those particular things. And this is my report for the day. I don't know if you remember yesterday, I told Shannon, I was like, click time, type in a thing, and then it searched it, and there wasn't any records on that, and then she clicked on a link, and it had an error message. Well, I went and fixed that last night, so that's some of the homework that I did. Cheryl, hello!
Hi, how are you?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So the next thing that we did after we kind of played around with elements of time is we switched to a bookstore. And basically what we did right here is we went into Amber's books. And who remembers what we did here? Shannon, can you tell us what we did in Amber's bookstore?
Yes, we inputted some other things because essentially when we wanted to see our inventory show up on the web. That was, I think, our main focus. So we put in DVDs and books and various things, and then we looked at them on e-commerce, and then we also did reoccurring invoices.
Correct, correct. So we were kind of playing out here in e-commerce land. We added treehouse books and go-kart books and doing concrete and all kinds of fun little things out here in kind of the e-commerce land. And so that was kind of fun. And then we did do some reoccurring invoices. And what was it about reoccurring invoices that you remember?
That you can set it up once and then you can duplicate it and perpetuate it forward. It's great. And you just need to come in, and I thought it was a wise counsel to, if you have things like that set up, you just check every day and it tells you which ones you need to get to and which ones are on board. So
awesome. Sounds good. That's kind of a quick review of what we did. Cheryl, I know you missed some of that, but how was taking your daughter to the airport?
Good. Good. A little hectic, but it was good.
Cheryl is my mother, and so sometimes I'll call her Mom or I'll call her Cheryl or whatever, but she has actually been to a number of Adilas training, and she is working, and just this past, couple days ago, maybe a week ago or so, she got her first order in, and so I came over and sat with her, and she was entering her first order for her own little herbal business, and she was just cranking through it, and she added 30-some items to a PO and just having tons of fun, so she's getting some good skills, Okay, so we're kind of here in the Adilas demo site. One more thing I wanted to kind of do just to kind of get the wheels flowing, if you will, is yesterday we actually went and watched a small video from a famous author whose name is Brandon Mull, M-U-L-L. He's the author of Fablehaven and The Beyonders and Candy Shop War and stuff like this. And he gave us 5 basic things that make a great story. Well, what we do inside of Adilas is we actually do some of those same type things. So these first 5 things here are exactly what Brandon was saying make a great story. And I've asked both Shannon and Tanya if they would kind of comment on that just to kind of help us get back into the flow of where we're headed on this, okay? Who would like to go first? Great. Tanya, I saw a hand. That works.
I think it's especially helpful for me to think of things as characters. It makes it less abstract in terms of what I'm kind of a visual person anyway, but it helps me explain abstract, both characters and relationships help me explain abstract concepts to people who maybe don't understand the complexities of how accounting relates to inventory or commissions or whatever. I just think that that's a great concept in terms of explaining to people and getting them on board with what you're doing.
Awesome. This is kind of a side note, but I'm not sure how many of you guys have actually dealt with different accountants, auditors, CPAs, whatever like this. They'll look at your records and, whoa, what's that $500 there? If you have a reason or you can tell them what happened, oh, okay. But if you just show the number, it immediately goes, beep, beep, beep. It's a flag. It's kind of like, whoa, what's going on? So if you can tell the story, we actually think that telling the story is more important than the actual numbers. If I put 5,000 in one spot and 2,500 in another spot, you have no clue what the underlying details or data is for that. But if you have that and it's right there and there's a link and you click on it and you go down and it physically shows you what that $5,000 is for, it adds validation. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I totally see that. And it just kind of helps you feel more comfortable with it. Here's one thing, Tanya, just for your information. You haven't seen this picture, or maybe you have, but we are calling this kind of virtual world building, kind of in business, how you're doing world building. This is a little picture that we're coming up with. I'm working on a flyer. I've actually got a whole bunch of stuff sketched out. But what we have is basically at the universe level, a world level, a location level, a group level, an individual level, a data level, and then we run everything over time, okay? So if you're like, it really helps me to understand who characters are, well, guess where your characters start entering in? Right here, okay? So your groups, watch this. Let's say that one of your groups is invoices, okay? And let's say that the red one right here is deposits. And then your blue one over here is your customers, and maybe you have a whole bunch of users or whatever. Anyway, there's 12 different groups that you can have. And then inside of that, you have the individual pieces, okay? So yesterday when we were doing some scheduling, if you remember, we had Stephanie Smith, and we ended up selling her a wedding package and all this kind of stuff. Well, what we did, imagine one of these little people right here was Stephanie. We basically said, okay, Stephanie, you're now going to be right here in this little customer group, okay? But I'm going to connect you to an item over here in invoices, okay? So like you're starting to, those are actually to the individual level that we are connecting all these things, but that's kind of what was happening. And as these things happen, it's kind of almost a virtual world building type scenario, okay? We will be bouncing back and forth between this graphic, but if you have a question, you're like, so what level are we on? Okay, we're on the data level now, because we're actually talking about individual things for that invoice. You know, what was its date? What was its amount? What was its line items? You know, that's the data level. Coming back up, oh, that was invoice number 45. Okay, that's kind of like the individual's name. What was the group? Oh, we're invoices. Oh, like kind of which level are we at? So anyway, we will be bouncing back and forth between that, but I wanted to jump back to this little Adilas formula. Just so you know, here are the 12 main players that we have that play into that. These are kind of the application players or the groups. So inside of this, I can have tons and tons of individual customers, but the group is customers. And the group is vendors, but I could potentially have tons of extra vendors or whatever, okay? So think of these players as the group level in this particular graphic right here, kind of right there. We have 12 groups or 12 player levels, if you will, okay? Awesome. Shannon, let's have you see if you can, before we go, Tanya, did you have anything else that you wanted to comment on kind of catching the story or kind of going in that direction?
Right now.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Okay, Shannon, can I have you make some comments? This is once again just kind of trying to get some things going.
As we kind of talked about yesterday as we left on our break for lunch, narratives are so relatable. People understand that because that's how life happens. So, as Tanya expressed, it really is such a powerful way to express either abstract concepts or even just data that you don't understand. Once you can link it to a narrative or a story or have context and understanding, it makes it far more powerful or just protective, I guess, as well for your business practices and what you're doing.
Awesome. Cheryl.
Okay, since I wasn't here and I can see these 5 things, will you just give me an example of each one? What's a character and a player? Are we talking about vendors? Are we talking about customers?
Okay, so basically what happens is a character and a player is something happens. Think story or movie. What's your favorite story or movie? Just as a real example that you can relate to, and then I'll relate it to something inside of Adilas. What's one of your
Star Wars?
Star Wars, perfectly. Character, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Yoda, Stormtroopers, you know, like those are all characters in Boba Fett, you know, like those are all characters and players who are kind of doing these things, okay? Very important. Inside of Adilas, your characters and your players, what is invoice number 45? Who does it relate to? And say for instance, I even had a bunch of customers. I have Shannon and Tanya and Cheryl and Joe and James and whoever else is actually available. These are my customers, okay? They're basically like my characters or players. They're going to start interacting. They're the ones who are doing the interacting, okay? That's how it kind of relates to it in an Adilas world. Okay, perfect. So relationships, what do you think on that?
How, like, if I have a customer, how they relate to my decrease in inventory. If I have a vendor, how did my inventory fit in? So those.
Okay, great. That's perfect. Those are in line, just kind of standard relationships. Similar to Star Wars. I like Star Wars, by the way. So you have Luke Skywalker, he has a relationship with Yoda, kind of this master teacher trainer type thing. Luke Skywalker also has a relationship with an enemy, Darth Vader. And he's currently his enemy, and then all of a sudden he gets a little twist and finds out it's his father. And like, those are relationships, but it basically makes you help believe or what's going on or how is it connected. It's not just a random data point out in the middle of nowhere. You don't have Luke, and then all of a sudden this bad guy, and you don't know any history behind him. You create this relationship, and that takes time, and it kind of takes connections or interactions. Okay, so those are relationships. Okay. So, trouble, problems, needs, and goals. What would we be talking about there?
I would think that that might be my notes that I make, why I got this in, how this relates, no, that would be relationships.
Actually, just so you know, like, these are categories, but some of them interconnect a little bit, okay? Like, okay, this actually, because, here's what the main problem is right here. The reason that something happens, and if you're trying to get a story, okay, is because there's something going on called trouble, okay? The IRS wants to know exactly what you have in your stock right now, okay?
Good trouble.
Okay?
Yeah, that's trouble.
The IRS also wants to know what you collected for taxes, okay? Your business partner wants to know what you spent your money on, okay? What is your trouble? Oh my goodness, I have 50 million people, they're right at my door, and how am I going to service them, okay? That's my trouble, okay? My trouble might also be like, wow, we kind of tweaked some stuff out and we're doing a super custom thing. How am I going to possibly be, you know, like connecting these dots that are potentially phantom or random or whatever? That's your trouble, okay? And then what you do is you say, oh, look, I'm going to get some of my players, my groups, and my individuals to actually create relationships to overcome the trouble, the problems, the needs, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Does that make a little bit more sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I understood it, but I just didn't quite, I needed to have it related back to Adilas. Okay.
Yep. Basically, we're trying not to say that Adilas is trouble, but what we're trying to do is you use Adilas. The whole concept of this entire thing is this. Your results, which is kind of like your goals and what you're looking for, you get to it by mixing these things, okay? Functions, players, and concepts. If you mix these, you'll get the results that you're looking for. It's kind of like a math formula, okay? So basically what we did is we broke it down. Here's some possible results. Here's some possible business functions. Sales, inventory tracking, customer relationship management, my content, what do I have, my pictures, my descriptions, my et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My expense tracking, my payroll, my scheduling, you know, like these are some of the functions. And then what we do is these functions, they use some of these players. So for instance, right here, payroll and time cards is a function, okay? It's some of the business functions. But in order to do payroll and functions, I'm going to be using this. I might get commissions off of invoices. I might get commissions off of stock units. I might have to eventually pay them. I am definitely going to be using employees and users because that's who I'm actually paying. And eventually, at some point, it may not be a user-maintained balance sheet item, but eventually it's going to hit the balance sheet. Okay, so we're using all these players to do a function called payroll and time cards. Okay, does that make sense? How we're kind of connecting those? Awesome, awesome. Cool. So the next one down, decisions and choices. Tanya, can I call on you? What do you think on decisions and choices?
That's where we act, I guess.
Okay, correct,
So
correct.
we'll do things, whatever it is, you know, we may decide to pay a bill. And so that has all kinds of things that come about because we've paid that bill. Or we may decide to add a new product. And so then there's all these things that come about because we do that. Is that
That's perfect, that's perfect, that's perfect. And so I put it both of them here, decisions and choices, but basically, like you said, this is action, okay? Like, you do anything inside of Adilas and it creates a cause and effect. If you do anything in your life, it potentially can cause cause and effects as well, okay? There are certain places where it's not as stressful as other, But if you're driving down the road and you do an action like, you have cause and effect relationships, okay? Depending on if anybody else is in the other lane, if a pedestrian's there, if there really is a spot where you can turn, like everything is kind of a variable, if you will, but like cause and effect relationships. You do something, it automatically does something else, okay? There's a guy who was trying to remember his whole name. It's Harry Emerson Fosdick, okay? He was basically like a preacher kind of back in the 1900s, just kind of a Protestant preacher type of person. But he had this really cool saying, okay? It basically went like this. I'm going to kind of paraphrase it, but he basically said this. He says, look to the road you are walking on, because where you start is where you're going to end up. You cannot pick up a stick without picking up the other end. Like that's kind of, don't quote me exactly on that, but it's like a pretty cool little saying that he did. But anyway, it's basically, it's cause and effect, okay? It's cause and effect. If you choose a road, guess what? You just chose that. The cool thing inside of Adilas is if you choose something, often if you make it a problem, we allow you to kind of turn around or edit it or do some different things, but there still are cause and effect relationships. There's a life cycle that's happening, okay? And even something as simple as this. Some customer comes in and you sell them some items, okay? That starts a transaction. All of a sudden, guess what the cause and effect is? Your inventory just went down. Your accounts receivable may have gone up or down depending on if you get fully paid. You now have monies that are available for a deposit, which would affect your bank, which would affect your balance sheet, which would affect your like it's the whole thing is cause and effect, and it was just happened by somebody opening a door and coming in and buying something. Okay, everything has a life cycle, and so we start it and we just kind of help you track the life cycle. Okay, but it's cause and effect, what's happening, and as these things happen, guess what also happens? This is super huge. As people make their decisions and their cause and effect relationships, they're down in here to consequences, it actually forms more of this. Can you see how it would actually form more relationships? So watch this, okay? Let's just really simple. Let's do an invoice. The customer comes in and buys some items. Piece of cake, that happens all the time, right? Okay, so that was a decision or a choice that was made. We sold some stuff. The consequences of this, all of a sudden, I now have monies that need to be tied to a deposit. I'm then virtually taking an invoice and tying it to a deposit, which creates a new relationship. I'm then taking that deposit, tying it to a bank, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, cause and effects actually create additional relationships in some of the ways, okay? Cool, that's basically what I wanted to kind of cover. I have one more item. We're going to jump clear down to systems, and I asked Shannon really quick just to kind of quickly comment on the word systems, because we haven't really talked about that too much.
Sure, systems. More or less systems is thinking about things in a non-linear aspect, I would say. So if you're doing systems thinking or systems solving or various things, you're noticing that all sorts of different relationships can be made. There's not just one way to accomplish something, but the system is affected by so many factors. So there's so many different players, or there's different reasons things happen, or different ways. It's definitely, I would say, systems takes on a more global perspective than a linear perspective. And while some things still happen in linear processes, there are still potentially more influences or other things that can change and adapt, and there's a lot of interconnectedness. Everything affects everything else, I would say.
Awesome. That's a great way to put it. Everything interconnects a little bit. Cheryl, do you have any other comments? Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and head on.
Nope.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, guys. I just wanted to kind of cover that, because where we're headed today is we're going to be right up here, okay? We're going to be doing CRM, which is Customer Relationship Management. You're telling a story about your customers, okay? We're going to be doing scheduling and all kinds of cool calendaring stuff. We're even going to be creating back-end relationships right here, creating data relationships between system players. We're going to call it the Flex Grid, okay? This is where we're going to kind of play a little bit today, But all of these pieces that you were seeing today, you're going to see them in real life as we jump into Adilas, okay? Awesome.